Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Justin and the Food Entrepreneurs. I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm your host, and today I have with me my co-host, Deborah Michas.
Hello.
And today we're interviewing Cecil Rhodes II, and he is the owner and operator, actually co-owner and operator of Nash and Proper Food Trucks. How are you doing today, Cecil?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. We're very excited about this. You're actually our first group of food trucks or food truck on the show, so this is very exciting. And while we have others lined up, I had to do yours first just as because I love fried chicken, to be honest with you. I
feel so special. I'm tickled right now.
No, I'm serious. We did a bunch of fried chicken and pressure fried chicken as a company a number of years ago for about 8 years. A lot of distribution and selling of the pressure fryers to convenience stores. So I've had my fair share, but I'm a huge fan. So tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Man, that's a long journey. So a little bit about myself. We operate out of Sacramento, California. And, much of my background is, fine dining. I started back in 2000 cooking for a restaurant in downtown Sacramento. One of the top restaurants back then. Didn't have any formal training. Just had a girlfriend whose dad owned a restaurant, and he knew that I liked to cook. And one of his line cooks called out one day or never showed up again. And he was like, hey, why don't you come in for a couple nights and see if you like cooking in a kitchen, professional kitchen environment. So as soon as I walked in and got on the line and felt the heat, just fell in love with it. About 4 years later, kind of worked my way up to sous chef, and I'm saying that in quotations because, I didn't know what anything was. So I ended up going to CCA out in San Francisco and getting formal training there. Did their 18-month program. It was 15 months. And then you go on a 3-month externship. While I was down there, worked at Cliff House out on that Sutros Beach. Did massages at Aqua Boulevard. Worked at Fog City Diner, Nordstrom's Bistro. Then ended up coming back to Sacramento to get back near family and just to see what Sacramento had to offer. Got a head chef gig. Didn't know what I was doing. So young and so green, and failed, and ended up getting a job, just going back down to line cook and at a place called Crush 29, and worked my way up again. And that's where I got the training from chefs that have done it, for real, like they're professional chefs, and they kind of guided me and took me from, being a line cook to a supervisor to a sous chef to executive sous. And from there, I ended up going to Bella Brew Cafe and becoming their executive chef there. I was at Bella Brew for about 4 or 5 years, and just kind of hit the mark. At that time I was cooking for probably 15 years at that time. So I was at the crossroad of like, do I go and be an executive chef somewhere else and just keep working my way up? And but at that time I was like, I think I want to do my own food. Because Bella Brew, they're kind of, they did like more Mediterranean food. And I kind of wanted to get back to my roots. I was kind of, on specialty stuff. I'll do like more elevated Southern food. And it was more, they didn't want that. The customers loved it, but they just didn't They're like, this is not what we are. This is not what we stand for. And so I just ended up pretty much leaving and looking for a restaurant. And then when I went looking for restaurants, I was like, well, there's no way I have this much money to run a restaurant. And at that time, food trucks in Sacramento were really booming. That was like the talk of the town. I've never been to like a gourmet food truck. I was just used to, they call them roach coaches, and I didn't know the difference, but I just heard like, people are doing really good food, really high level chefs are picking up these food trucks and going and doing their thing on food trucks. So I got with my dad and my stepmom. I said, hey, I think I can really do this. And, if you guys could back me, I'll show you what I can do. So we got together, we bought a food truck, and that was Cecil's Taste. And that opened up in 2014. We were specializing in smoked pork belly. So we did like pork belly tacos. We did like a loaded fry with smoked pork belly. We had sandwiches. And then we had gourmet burgers as well. And we were doing everything off the truck. Everything was fresh made, and just go, like for the next 3 years, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of, talking to my wife, like, is this really for me? Like, what am I doing? I could get a job as a catering chef, or I just sit in the office, like it was tough. But I started hearing about Nashville hot chicken like in my journey, and I was always like playing around. I've been playing around with fried chicken since I was 12 years old. It was something that my grandmother made in cast iron skillet, and I still remember the smell and the grease and the taste of like how juicy your fried chicken was, and I always wanted to mimic that. I knew I could never get her flavor, but I knew that I could get, close or like do my own little spin. And that's kind of how my food is. It's some stuff that I grew up on, and it's kind of putting my twist on it. But the Nashville hot chicken, I started hearing about it a lot. I started seeing it on Food Network, on Cooking Channel, and I was like, what is this stuff? And then I saw it pop up at, I don't know if I can say this, but it was at KFC. So that's the closest place I knew that had Nashville hot chicken. So I'm like, all right, let me go try one of this chicken. I go there and I taste it. I'm like, what? This is horrible. Like, why do people like this? And so I started to, I started reading up on it and getting the history about, how it came about and, what it really means, and started looking for cookbooks that have recipes in it. So I started formulating my own recipe for hot chicken. And we're cooking hot chicken for about 2 years. It's me and my truck manager at the time were just messing with recipes. And I was dealing with like different spice levels and things like that. And we had a party that requested the hot chicken one day, and we just did it. And we looked at each other and we're like, "This is it. This is really good." And and as a chef, like you think it's good to you, but then when the customers are like, "This is the best thing I've ever had," you can't ignore that. I think all my food's good, but everybody doesn't think the same way. But so we started with the sandwich on Cecil's Taste. We call it the sandwich, and it has a jalapeno slaw. It has a gallo sauce, which is a spicy aioli with pickles, and then we had the Nashville hot chicken, boneless thigh on a brioche bun, and we were selling 300 pounds a week along with my smoked pork belly, with the gourmet burgers, with the fries. And my truck manager, he's always talking about, oh, I want to do my own thing. I want to do my own thing. And I told him, I was like, hey, man, like, I think this hot chicken, we could do something with just hot chicken itself. So we moved to our current commissary right now where we park maybe a year ago. And we're sitting there and we're prepping. And I always saw this trailer just sitting there. And it never went out. And I was like, you know what? A trailer would be great for this, hot chicken concept that I have. And I saw the lady that owned it one day, and as soon as I saw her, I like kind of hop out. I probably scared her because I jumped out of my truck and was like, hey, what are you doing with this trailer? And she was like, oh, she had some personal stuff that she was dealing with. So, I pitched it to her about what I want to do. And, can I just rent it for, the rest of the year? And this was last June when we took over the trailer, and, just rented summer monthly. And I was like, at the end of the year, we'll circle back and, see where we are. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And you can have your trailer back. And she agreed to it. And last December, we bought it outright with the money that we made on the truck.
Well, that worked out.
Trailer, So, so pretty much, that's my story.
So now you have two trucks.
Too long-winded. Yeah, I had two trucks. So I had Cecil's Taste and I have the Nash and Proper. But Cecil's Taste will be turned into a Nash and Proper just because of all of the all the backing that we've been getting from Sacramento, and we're getting a lot of bookings with the Nash and Proper. Cecil's Taste will still be doing catering because we have an extensive catering menu and kinds of cuisine you can get off of there, menus and things like that. But for the day-to-day trailer truck going out, we're just going to do Nash and Proper. We're also going to be doing a tent setup at the farmers markets this year. So, yeah, we got 3 years with the Nash and Proper. Yeah, just within 7 months here.
So how do you figure that out? I mean, I know that trucks move around all the time. So, one, how do people find you? We'll start with that one. Like, if someone wants to come try your food, how do they know where your truck's going to be?
Instagram. We're pretty live on Instagram. We have our weekly schedule on there. That's our website, nashandproper.com. All of our social media is Nash and Proper at Nash and Proper. So usually Instagram goes up every week, and that's how you find us.
Okay, so weekly they can go on social media. They can find out where to find you. And then in terms of
Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
How do people, or how do you figure out where you're going to go? How do you know, do you have to sign up? Do they pick, so they don't have duplicate trucks? Or how do you find the venues to go park at and serve at?
It's a little bit of both. I get a lot of inquiries about Nash and Proper, and that was kind of why I, was like, okay, let me just change Cecil's Taste into a Nash and Proper, because Cecil's Taste, I get an inquiry a day about, hey, can you come out? But Nash and Proper is all day, hey, can we have you here? Can we have you there? And instead of, just having this one unit, trying to do everything, I was just like, okay, let me just change this in there, and just so everybody can, have a taste of what we have. But we're not just in Sacramento either. There's a lot of counties around here. So we do Yolo County, we do Placer County, we do El Dorado County. We have the Bay Area, is 80 minutes away. We have Amador County, we have San Francisco, Contra Costa. So there's a lot.
Yeah.
And we're the only hot food truck and trailer, or hot chicken trailer, in all these counties. So we haven't ran into, oh, well, we already have hot chicken. You know what I mean? So the gourmet burger, there's a lot of burger trucks. There's a lot of taco trucks. So, that was kind of my thinking too, is like, there's not even a lot of fried chicken trucks out here. I don't think there's any. We're the only one. There's a lot of hot wing trucks, but people that do different kinds of fried chicken, there's just not any in. Oh man, I think the next one is probably in Oakland, and they're called Hot Bird. So that's kind of my thinking behind everything, because I told my truck manager, I was like, if we don't do it, somebody else will, and that was kind of when he was like, okay, I'm on board,
So can you guys go and bring your trailer basically anywhere, or do you need special permission to be there, or do they have set places we're going to set you guys up and 10 trucks can come here?
No, we don't have, I know some places have pods where you can just go and serve food. We have to be permitted. There's some events where, the promoter will call you and be like, hey, I want your truck out here. We can't just go and set up anywhere in Sacramento. That's one thing that a lot of us food trucks are trying to change. They're getting a little bit more lenient where you can go and just as long as you feed the meter, you can stay there. But you can't just go and park on a corner in Sacramento. You have to have either a promoter or you got to be on private property and have permission from somebody. We have to have restroom verifications. We have to submit with Sacramento County where we'll be at on what days. So, they can come inspect when they want to. And that's before you get your permit. You just can't go and, you can, but it'd be illegal. But Sacramento's pretty strict on food trucks.
So I want a few comments that I have. Deborah's all business over there, so I'm going to be the comic relief over here. But that KFC Nashville hot sandwich, I actually had one the other day. I agree, it was okay. It wasn't what we had when Deborah and I were in Nashville a few months ago. But the funny thing is Deborah and I, she likes Taco Bell for when we're on the road sometimes as a quick meal, and they did have it. And I was attracted. I'm like, okay, I'm going to have Taco Bell, but I'm also going to have KFC Nashville hot sandwich because I love the fried chicken Nashville hot. So I get why people are attracted to it. And then I'm going to make a comparison on the truck because it reminds me of a story I recently heard, which is how you had one truck, but because it's getting overbooked, you decided to get another truck to fill those commitments that you had to turn down. And I'm pretty sure that that's the way NSYNC was started because the Backstreet Boys were so overcommitted that they needed another band, so they created NSYNC. So
Cecil, I bet no one's ever compared you to those bands before, right?
No. If I could get that kind of popularity, I'm all for it. I'll tell you that much.
You're like, I'll take it. So you mentioned a wife. Is she involved in all of this too?
She was involved the first year. And she was pregnant with our baby girl, and she was all about it, but then we got busier, and then she was like, all right, you got it, get a staff,
right.
You do your thing now, but she was there. She was my backbone. She works a full-time job for the state. She comes home, she takes care of the house still, and lets me go out and grind it out and do what I love and what I'm passionate about. I couldn't do it without her. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
She's an amazing woman.
Well, that's great that you have a great partner in the whole thing. And so, I'm always curious because a lot of entrepreneurs get into owning their companies because they have a passion for something. But the reality is, as entrepreneurs, we kind of have to do everything. We wear all different hats. And so, one, do you still get to do the parts that you love? And two, what are the things you love the most? And what are the things that like you kind of dread doing? And are you able to pass those off, or you still feel the need that you need to handle those as well?
What was that? Sorry, you kind of cut out there.
So what I was asking is, we tend to, as entrepreneurs, have to wear lots of hats. So one, do you get to do the things that you still love to do and that got you into starting the business? And two, is the things that are not really your favorite parts, are you able to pass those off and have employees to help you with it, or you still feel the need that you have to do those?
I'm kind of, I can now, since I have Jake, and he's co-owner, and he's a great partner. We've been working together for over 10 years, so he kind of knows what I'm looking for. When I first started, I couldn't give anything up. I was on the truck every day. I was cooking, I was prepping, I was cleaning, I was doing the books, I was doing everything because I couldn't give it up. But now that, I have a family, I want to be there. I don't want to miss out on things that I regret later in life.
Agreed.
I even tell Jake the same thing, because he's kind of, taking that role of, I need to be here. And we have a great team. We have like executive chefs like that work in the trailer and the truck for us. They ran restaurants, and I'm like, dude, like these guys could take care of the little stuff. Of course we're big picture. I still do all of our spices. I still brine the chicken, but I still am able to be home, by 6, 7 o'clock to, spend some time with the family, and just do things that I couldn't do years ago or even before that. So, yeah, sorry about these long-winded answers, but yeah, that's pretty much, that's what I'm doing now. Yeah, I try to give, I try to give some of the burden off to other people.
It's great that your wife is so supportive. I think being a food entrepreneur or entrepreneur in general, that having that support, we talk about it a lot on this show, is so vital to success or growing or in the understanding of time that's needed. But the other thing that you said that I want to touch on the show is that there is balance there, because if you do commit too much one, you do miss out on the rest of your life and the whole reason you're being an entrepreneur, which is to provide for your family and those around you. But the second part is also burning out. And if you commit so much time to something, you're going to burn yourself out. So, forcefully walking away a little bit here and there and putting your mind on something else. I know my dad is, one of the things he does is he plays pool every Monday and Thursday just to get out of his own head. Him and my mom go, and my sister, and that's time they spend together. But it's important because I know that when I can get obsessive myself, and I can go and I've got to be there for everything, and I got to be involved in every phone call, and I've got to be involved in every email. And it gets exhausting and it gets tiring, and it also leads to unnecessary stress that doesn't help build the business and doesn't do anyone any favors when I'm on them, micromanaging them every second. So it's and people like freedom. It sounds like Jake, I believe his last name's Bombard. Is that correct? Your business partner. And it sounds like he's really taken on a role, and partners are good when you guys have equal work ethic for sure. And so tell me a little bit about how your relationship works with him. You've talked about how he runs a truck, but how did you decide that he was the right partner, and what qualities in him made him the right partner for you?
Well, when I met Jake, he was our pastry chef at Crush 29, and we went to the same culinary school. I think he graduated a year before me, but we always had like a connection, just throughout the years. And he went his own way, went my own way. And when I called him, because I was, Cecil's Taste was growing, and he was the first person I called, and I was like, you know what, Jake, I know it's not the most glamorous or, it's not fine dining, but I really need you, man. I know that you've always listened and you get it, like you get what hard work is. And he came aboard, and he never gets frustrated. He's more even killed than I am. And he's learning as it goes on the own part, but I just know that he believes in the idea of what we have going on. I don't know if I told him, but he does all of our social media. He came to me when we're opening. He was like, you know what? I just want to do social media, and I because I want to build content, and I want to, see where it goes, and I just want to kind of make my own thing. And I'm horrible with social media. I was like, you go right ahead, buddy.
Yeah, it's a great divide when he wants it and you don't. You're like, perfect.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, you go right ahead. And he built something. What he's doing on social media is amazing. And when he was talking to me about leaving and doing his own concept, I was like, well, why don't we do something together, And I don't know if he was just over me at the time, or like he never, like every time I'll be like, hey, like let's just do something together. He's always like, oh yeah, And when the chicken thing came about, I think he knew, just like I knew, that this could be something big. This would be, as chefs, for the last 18, 19 years, been doing it. I've never seen the end of the road. Like there's never been any. There's never been nothing where I'm like, all right, this is my out. I could actually retire on it, until Nash and Proper came about, and I think we're both trying to, get this concept off the ground and keep it moving and keep the momentum going, keeping it delicious, keep it, as consistent as we can. And that's we've been with this, since the beginning. We've been holding it like almost like a golden egg, where, we have to be very consistent. We have to keep it, the best thing. And, social media has to be up to date. We have to keep it, it's a precious thing, when you've been working so hard for so many hours a week for so long, and you finally got to where you could be, that you believe in too.
Right.
Right. Sometimes people are just like, oh, I'm just going to throw this out because people like it. There's a lot of, I'm sure you've been to, restaurants, and, like people go there just because, and not to bash them, but Bella Brew, where I was a, executive chef at, people just went there because it was in a nice neighborhood and people didn't cook,
Right.
Like, I still get some of their patrons coming up to the truck and like, Bella Brew's so horrible since you left, but still go because it's just around the corner.
It's easy.
You know what I mean? So,
yeah. Well, you guys have built a great brand and a quality product, and you're really proud of it. And, so as you guys look towards the future, do you have growth goals for it, or like how do you envision the future looking for you guys?
I think right now we, want to. I told Jake, let's go ahead and get past this year, and see where we are past this year. Because going from a 16-foot trailer to a truck and a tent setup is going to be all hands on deck.
Yeah.
When we first sat down at the table, we were coming up with the concept and laying it out. I told Jake I could see this in every city in America, and I still do. It's a great concept. It's good food. Yeah. It's something that everybody loves fried chicken. You're crazy. Even if you have that memory of fried chicken,
right?
But doing the Nashville style, still a little twist. But you can still get it, like we call it country or southern, where it doesn't have any heat on it. But you still have a memory of fried chicken of some kind of way. So we're doing it. We're doing it right. So for the short term, let's get past this year. For the long term, franchising and getting this in every city in America. I've had somebody come up to me and say they want to take our idea and take it to Mexico.
Well, that's awesome. So when you think about franchising, is that all about coming up with systems so you make sure you maintain the quality and distribution points? And
exactly.
So is that you'll take kind of this year is to figure out how to maintain that consistency for the units you have now and then figure out how to multiply it? Is that the process, or you're still looking into what that process is?
Yeah. I'm still looking into it. What I have to do is I have to get all the recipes down to a T, because I love what we do in the spice, and I'm logged up still because I was just mixing all the spices before we got on the phone. It was probably not the best decision before getting on a long podcast here, but I had to do it. But it's just getting the right measurements and making sure it's costed out right, and that's pretty much what I do nowadays. I finally got our brine down, and Matt took over the brining of the chicken. He started Monday because that recipe was down. But the spices, I'm still trying to get the right brand and source it out correctly, and just still trying to get there. I'm still a work in project on this a work in process on the excuse me on the spice level. But we are coming out with two more spice levels, a little bit more hotter this year, because people don't think it's hot enough. So I'm gonna
it's funny. Sure. There's people who like spicy, and there's people who don't. And the people who like it hot, they like it hot, and the people who don't really don't.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so I mean, your social media is amazing. So I definitely want to give credit to that. The following and the likes and the photographs and the content, I think that's been amazing. So props there for sure. I just wanted to touch upon that since we talked about it a little bit. The other thing I want to ask is, how did you come up with your name and logo? Because I think your logo is incredible with the chicken breathing fire. And anyone who wants to look at it in the audience, that's at Nash and Proper on both Facebook and Instagram. And so tell us a little bit about that.
So Jake came up with he came to me and he was like, well, what about, he came up with Nashville Proper. And I was like, that's kind of long, it's kind of long to put on a side of a truck, Nashville Proper. And then he was like, all right, let's just cut it down to Nash Proper. And I was like, oh, cool. Yeah. Nash and Proper. And he kept correcting me. He's like, no, just Nash Proper. And I was like, yeah, Nash and Proper. And he's like, whatever. We're just going to call it Nash and Proper. because you
Close
keep
enough.
saying it. So that's pretty much how we came up with the name and the design. I just envisioned a chicken breathing fire pretty much. And I went to our design guy and I was like, I want this chicken, but I want the mouth open and I want the flames coming out. And he's like, all right. So he came back with it had to be about 30 different logos. And there, like it was one with the chicken with the mouth like fully agape, and there's ones with like the chicken whistling and whistling fire, and just me and Jake kind of just went through it, and just kind of went with the one that just kept. It was number 11. I remember
number 11.
Kept saying, "Yeah,
lucky ones, double ones."
Yeah,
it's awesome. Justin just pulled it up for me to see. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And the color palette's awesome too. I mean, the graphics he put behind it are excellent. It's amazing. Would make for a nice T-shirt as well. Do you guys?
Oh yeah, we have we have T-shirts. We're still we're trying to, because a lot of people direct message us and they want they want our T-shirts. So we're trying to come up with different designs and stuff where people can. Have some of the T-shirts that we wear already, but they're expensive. So if anybody out there in podcast land has some good prices on T-shirts, give me a call.
Yeah, right. And when you guys start offering T-shirts, will you do that through your website and stuff, or will you actually sell them off the trucks?
We're just gonna sell them off the truck for right now. Like we've already had a few people come through and grab some shirts. We just bought a whole case of them, and people and we have another design coming out this next month. So yeah,
they're just gobbling them up.
It's hard to it's hard to get them designed. To get somebody to because you want stuff like in a timely fashion, and some people just don't they don't have that get up and go like other people. So.
That's awesome.
It's too bad you aren't here in the studio, because Deborah is making herself laugh at how she said people are gobbling it up like it's a poultry thing over here.
I occasionally find myself to be very funny.
If you know Deborah, one of her favorite memes is Kermit the Frog laying on the ground with a oxygen mask in a hospital, and it says, "I crack myself up," or whatever, is something like that, and he needs oxygen. She'll make herself laugh all day long.
It's okay. I'm easily entertained over here.
And so I love the story, and actually it's interesting. A lot of the entrepreneurs we're talking to, they either have no food background whatsoever, or they have experience in fine dining, no matter where they end up as an entrepreneur. It seems that those two paths, either you're not scorned by the normal food world and you just come in ignorant and sort of, go for it because it's a family recipe, or there's some formal training there where really an understanding of food and how it goes together, which I thought was interesting because you touched upon that as well with both you and Jake. So I wanted to point that out to the audience or entrepreneurs that are out there that are trying to get in the food world. It seems like if you're really wanting to be a chef or a person that launches a product, it seems like getting experience in fine dining is a necessity. Do you feel that taught you a lot about your products and how you put together your menu?
Yes, it is. Just to touch on that, so when I got out of culinary school, I always told people my only regret was going to culinary school. And it's just so much money. It's so much money, and you're in there with a lot of people that don't take it seriously. And I was 24 when I went, so I was on my own. So, you're in there with 18-year-olds that just don't take it seriously, and you're kind of, just going through the motions. And I was already in a kitchen, for 4 years before I went. So, but now that I'm, older and I look back, now I can go back and, pull up, my margin sheets and things like that, I kind of for granted when I was in culinary school. So, or just like a recipe, I still got my, my Gislin, cookbook here. And, I go back just to, all right, let me just go back to the basics. So that's something that I changed my mind on with, cooking. But I get so many calls from, either a family member or somebody's kid that wants to get into cooking. And what I tell them is go and work at a restaurant, just go in, work as a dishwasher, work as a busser, and get your, see if you like it, because those are the two most grueling jobs, and that's something that I still have to do. I still have to clean. I still have to wash dishes, but I think if you're going to be in this industry, you have to work in a restaurant before you even go to culinary school. Just go, knock on the back door, be like, hey, can I work, can I work as a dishwasher? Can I just get in here and and find my way? And, you know pretty soon. I knew as soon as I got on the line at the, at the kitchen that I worked at, my first kitchen job, I knew as soon as I walked in there and started cooking, I was like, I could do this. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And you'll know.
And
you will know.
And it's interesting you say that. I mean, I did a business degree undergraduate at Dickinson College in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. I'll give the Red Devils a shout out here. But it's, I mean, I went through school. I did average, you would say. And, but the thing is when I got out of school and I got into a couple different jobs in finance and whatever, none of it really stuck. It wasn't until I was between jobs and my father was like, oh, I have something you can do in the meantime. I need you to go to the kitchen or commissary in Roanoke and count food carts and look at food costs for me. And I was like, oh my gosh, that seems so mundane. Why am I going to do that? But I'd grown up around food, and my dad had always been in the food world, and I had taken an interest to food and farming and stuff like that always, and it just kind of stuck. And I learned more, starting to work in that area and then starting to work for myself than I ever did in undergraduate, for sure. It definitely gave a foundation, but it's nothing like real life experience. And then there's nothing like a real life experience of starting your own business. But I think you need to find that foundation for sure, especially in food. And for me, I was doing a menial job in my opinion back then. Now I understand the importance of why he wanted me to start counting food and costing food and carts and analyzing waste and understanding that, raw food isn't the same weight as cooked food, and how do you calculate that when pricing it, and what's food waste, and how do you minimize it and reuse food. And there was all these things I did that I thought was mundane then. It was almost like what Mr. Miyagi does to Daniel-san. It's like you repeat the same thing over and over again until it becomes a habit. But I then went back and did my MBA at the University of North Carolina, the one MBA program, and because I wanted to see what was out there, and I thought I was stuck in the food world. And what I found was that the experience, I don't care what it was, whether it was I was waiting tables or back in the food world or whatever job I had, those jobs, like food, you get customer service. When you're a food entrepreneur, you understand food and waste. You understand how to deal with employees. You understand how to do marketing and advertising. You understand how to control your costs and, do the accounting, whether you want to or not, and deal with legal stuff or logistics, depending on what it is. And that experience isn't like any degree that I know of. There's no degree out there that's like life. And we did a Rocky Balboa episode a couple weeks ago, but it was like nothing hits harder than life. And that's the truth. I mean, there's no experience that the hard knocks of life teach you more than you could ever learn in a book or, in a classroom or from a professor. And that's not saying education isn't important. It's just, I feel that in food, you really need to go out there and experience it and get an understanding for it and learn in order to do it. So sort of my tangent there. But so
there's no guidebook for this.
Yeah, no.
Like you can ask. I get so many people that call me or DM me and, hey, I want to get into the food truck industry. Where do I start? Like, don't.
Yeah.
It's tough. I got into it, and there's no, like, what am I gonna do? I have this food truck, and I just had to do it. I called like a few people and asked them like, hey, how do I turn on the stove? Kind of, like I had to actually go up to people and be like, hey, how do I turn on the propane? Like,
No, I've been there. We ran around the East Coast because we were doing fried chicken, and we had the pressure fryers, and we called it the chicken chariot, the trailer. And I can't tell you how many times I couldn't figure out the generator, or it would get so cold that I didn't realize the propane wouldn't work properly, and I had to warm up the trailer with heaters to get the propane to work properly. And stuff that I should have known being in the food business for 10 plus years when we were going around doing this. And you just learn it on the fly. And of course there's a panic because you're like, okay, like we're doing a demo for a grocery store, a demo for a convenience store chain. What is happening right now? But you learn things that and it's amazing. And I think anyone who wants to do their own food business, you got to be willing to solve problems and put out fires every day. I mean, and be able to move on quickly from it. And, one of the things that I think is a definite quality is, and we've talked about this before on the show again, but it's like, it's not finding the snake, it's figuring out how to kill the snake right away and move forward. And even if it's not the right way, at least it's done, and you can figure out how to do it better later when you have time to reflect on it. But I think that's huge. And, I'm having flashbacks of the chicken chariot days. I'm like, oh my goodness. Funny story I'll tell you.
A mechanic, you become, you gotta, know how to, change tires on this big beast, and you gotta do oil changes. You gotta make sure, your generator, like maybe, like the fuel nozzle that gets pushed down in there, and how do I push it back up? And the refrigerator doesn't work, so you got to go get dry ice. You got an inspector coming, and that county doesn't let you have dry ice. And how do you maneuver?
Yep.
And that's what food is how to maneuver in this world of, because it's not a restaurant, like I was in restaurants for 15 years before I got a food truck, and I thought I was just going to pick up and get into this food truck and everything. And, I'm going to do everything a la minute, and then you get into this, and people that are waiting in food truck lines, and, sometimes they just don't care. They want their food, and they'll stare you down until you get your food. And in restaurants, you don't have people just staring at the back of your head. It's like a laser beam, they're waiting for their food. So it's, it was a different beast. It is a different beast. And, I have some of the, some top chefs like, hey, you're doing really good in the food truck. I should get one. I'm like, yeah, you'll see.
No, I know. It's like I've got a great story for you. I was with one of the employees that worked for me. He was a sales guy, and we had to do this grocery store demonstration of these fryers on the chicken chariot and all that. and we're on the Long Island Expressway in Long Island, New York. And I'm driving and whatnot, and we start to get off an exit, and he's like, "Oh my gosh, the height is nothing over 12 foot." Well, I already knew the trailer was 13'9" with the hood extension out of it. And so I'm like, okay, so I jerked the wheel over the median basically to get back on the highway. All of a sudden the trailer won't go straight, the whole way until we get it back to where we park it in Delaware after the thing. And I literally bent both axles. And that cost a fortune, popped a wheel. And oh man, it was a disaster. And I remember I have to go back to headquarters because one of the business adventures I had with my father, and it's like I'm still his son, so I'm going back with my tail tucked between my legs. I think I just spent about $6,000 in 2 axles and wheels. But being mobile is easier. It also means that things get harder. And also the funny part is not only the trailer got messed up, and it wasn't a huge medium, is that I hit the bump so hard to make sure I didn't go that way and tear off the top of the trailer that I knocked some of the electrical wires off on the truck. So every time we would hit a small bump, the windshield wipers would start flying and burning the rubber against the thing. So I'm like, I use up all the windshield washer fluid. We're trying to pour water on the thing, and the windshield wipers are going and going and going until, there's no rubber left, and they're still going. So I'm dealt with this huge thing, but a stupid thing like not making sure that I knew what the height on the bridges were as we were leaving the place we were going to and getting off the Long Island Expressway. And, food trucks and trailers, there's a lot of things that come with it that don't come with restaurants. Like you said, you can't just call a service person when you're broke down on the road, or your propane isn't working, or you've got a line of people that want food. They're, for some reason they think mobile is like fast food, and they think to order and get out the door right away. So what are some of the, I've told my hardship of my chicken chariot days, and there is still a love-hate relationship there with that mobile trailer, but a lot of fond memories too. But what are some of the hardships you have had with it, and the lessons you've learned from it?
I think the hardest thing is in employees, because, for some reason, it's kind of like a landing spot for most people. Like, it's an in-between. Yeah. So, you put your ad out, and, the people come in and, all gung-ho, but these are people that I always ask people, you ever been in a food truck before? They say yes, and I'm like, okay, I can go on with it. And if they say no, I'll be like, what's the smallest kitchen you ever, worked in, and how many people were in that kitchen? So people get in thinking it's going to be easy. And, I could flip a burger. What's wrong with flipping a burger? Oh, I could fry a chicken. But it's continuous. It's like go, 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 go. And sometimes you're at these events, 8-hour events, and you have a line with, 100 people before you open the door, and you have a window full of chicken. And that only lasts you an hour, but, you're continuously frying, and you're continuously, making your sandwiches, and you continuously, just go, go, go. And people just don't, and then the next day, they don't show up, but the day, when you interviewed them, I got this, and that's the same with restaurants. But I think I've had the most turnover with just people thinking, it's like an in-between job for them, or they show up to the interview and, you like them, or they come have a tryout, and you call them back and they're like, oh, well, I'm viewed at a couple other places too. And I think I'm going to get this other job. So thanks for the interview. It's really hard. um, we've lucked out with Nash and Proper, and I lucked out with Cecil's Taste because there's a lot of people that actually believe in the two concepts. And as soon as I told my employees they're at Cecil's Taste that we're going in the direction of the Nash and Proper, they got even more excited because they see the potential of that. And everybody that's working with us is on the ground floor. You guys could, we could all see where this goes. We actually, over this, it's a little bit slower in December and January. So me and Jake actually took time to talk to each employee, off-site, just to pick their brains and, see what they needed from us. Kind of tell them the direction that we're going, what we needed from them. And everybody's excited. It's a nerve excitement because we got so much that's about to go on here starting this weekend until November, so it was good to take the time out and kind of talk to everybody and kind of pick their brain and get some input on what to do and, what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong too. So it's been a good winter. And we had a lot of we had to put more fryers into everywhere. We got fryers everywhere.
I love that. And the whole line thing is when we used to do trade shows for fried chicken, the amount of people that would line up for the sampling and the tasting, and it's just
oh my goodness.
I know we're on this health kick in the United States, and food like that is sort of frowned upon in that sense, but I can't tell you, in my opinion, and actually you can go anywhere, that fried chicken is a staple of American culture, and no one in America has not had it or doesn't enjoy it, and it's one of those things where it's never going to go away. I don't care what you try to do to it or church it up or whatever, it's not going to go away. And it's like pizza, no one's ever going to get rid of traditional pizza. Fried chicken it's an amazing product. And I look forward, Deborah and I are in San Francisco a lot for work because we have a commissary there, but I think we'll probably look you guys up and make a trip out of into Sacramento, or fly into Sacramento and drive into San Francisco on a trip and try the chicken for sure, because I'm definitely interested. It sounds amazing. And I'm literally here. I have like so much saliva in my mouth. It's kind of unbelievable when it's like I'm Pavlov's dog. Like the bell's ringing and I'm drooling because I'm thinking about all my memories of fried chicken and Nashville hot chicken when we were in Nashville, as well as the fried chicken and the chicken chariot days. And it's amazing. That doesn't happen to me very often, where a food will actually give me a response like that. But I appreciate you being on the show for sure, and I can't tell you how awesome it's been. So my final question is, if you could go back to when you graduated from culinary school, and then also right before you started the business, what are some of the things you would go back and tell yourself so you wouldn't have to learn them as you've made this journey?
After culinary school, I would have said to myself, take it seriously, because I was in San Francisco, I was single, and I partied. I partied it up. Before I went to San Francisco, I wanted to do my externship in Florida Keys. But I stayed in San Francisco, and I was like, I'm a good enough cook. I could find my way. But I wish I would have traveled a lot more than I did, and got out of California, cooked out of California. Went out of the country, did some stuff out of the country. And before I started the food truck industry, probably would have told myself, don't get distracted. And meaning, get out of your own head. You're, just, keep your head down and just keep cooking. And don't let distractions get in your way, just like when you're in culinary school. Because I got there's a couple years there that I got really depressed with just how the food truck industry was.
Yeah.
And it was like I was on the truck, pretty much 24/7, and and I was like, I don't know what to do, like what am I doing with my life? I'm just a food truck operator, and it was tough there, but like I said, I had a wife behind me, and good system at home, and I had to get out of my own head and make it out. So yeah.
No, I appreciate the vulnerability for sure, and the honesty.
Mm-hmm.
And I can relate to that. I think in my earlier years and being an entrepreneur, and after college, I enjoyed life more than I should have, and I missed out because I had a fear of missing out, as they say. And that I missed a lot of opportunities or chances to grow, or the things that really mattered in business. And I could have learned a lot more at the beginning. So any young people wanting to be entrepreneurs, I think that's important. I saw a saying the other day is, I work hard now so I can play hard later. And I think a lot of people play hard now thinking that they're going to be able to play hard later, but it doesn't quite work that way, because if you play too hard now, you're going to have to work harder to make it up later. And, that's one of the things I've learned for sure. I definitely enjoyed my early, mid, and late 20s quite a bit. And, I missed out on things, or didn't take certain chances I should have, or missed out on, in my opinion, or didn't learn as much as I should have, because that was part of my focus. And, Deborah and I talk about this a lot, is if there's any short-term goals that get in the way of your long-term goals, you shouldn't have those short-term goals. And, that's one. And then the other thing is that I think a lot of entrepreneurs at the beginning, or as they're figuring out life, go through that little bit of a depressive stage. I know for me, and I was a little bit older, I'd been in the business world for a while, and the economy went down, and we were in all sorts of businesses, and some of the stuff didn't, it just doesn't pan out the way you want it to, or your expectation is. And, I was very hard on myself, and it just leads to that kind of, what am I doing with my life? And it's, people call it a midlife crisis, but I think as entrepreneurs, when your life is in your own hands, or so you feel, sometimes that can be hard. And I agree with you. For me to get out of it, it took just listening around me, and then taking other opportunities, and sort of just, I don't know, it was more like I had to say, okay, this is where I am. I have to get comfortable where I am in order to get out of it. Because if I'm not comfortable with it, and I'm not in the right mindset, I can't get out of this, because no matter where I'm going to go, I'm going to carry this negativity and this depressed state with me. Mm-hmm. And, it took me a long time to figure that out. I would say a few years as well. And so I love that you said that. And, it's not something anyone wants to go through, for sure. But the lessons that we learn from periods like that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
You gotta take care of your mental health. Like, I talk to my psychiatrist every Monday, and, there's some things that you just can't put on your wife. You just can't put on your friends. I tell people, when they tell me, I'm going through this and going through that, I'm like, go talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Because there's been, for so many years, I was, big guy, but as soon as I started taking care of my mental health, everything's been going up, that's a big hurdle that a lot of people gotta, they gotta get out of their own way. And there's professionals out there that's what they get paid to do.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think having a support system and having a support system outside of your immediate family, or even whatever relative family, and outside of it that really doesn't have skin in the game, if you will. I think that's huge as well. And I agree with that. Once you get out of your own mental way as an entrepreneur, because a lot of us get in our own way because the ambition and the drive that gets us to start these businesses or go out on our own is often not the thing that's going to make us successful in it. And, if we keep going that same path, we're like, well, it got me this far. Why can't it get me farther? And we sort of have to go back and look at things and reevaluate. And, it's hard. Sometimes I look at myself and I'm like, oh gosh, I don't really like that about myself. And why am I doing it? And how can I change this behavior? Because it's negative for me and it's negative for the people around me. And it's certainly not good for my business. And so, I think that's a big part of it as well. And I'm glad you said that. And really the authenticity there is it's real, right? It's what every human, whether they want to admit it or not, has something they're dealing with. And there is options out there to go talk to, for sure. And if you want to be successful in business, I agree with you. I feel that you have to go be mentally healthy in order to succeed. And I also think our employees pick up on that stuff a lot, and they look up to us as leaders. So it makes it a little difficult when we're not taking care of ourselves and then expect them to take care of themselves and show up to work every day and be their best when we're not being the best versions of ourselves either.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's exactly right.
Well, what I'd like to do, Cecil, I can't even tell you how much I appreciate you being on the show, but I would love to have you back on the show in a few months, and just because we're trying to talk to the food entrepreneurs, and then tell the story not just once on a little segment, but also the progress and what we all go through and how we grow, and sort of, Deborah and I still haven't figured out the right word for when we go back and forth. It's either an experiment, an experience, or a project. It's one of those things that we're trying to capture here. But, really what it is it's just the life story of how we grow. I mean, and follow people. And I want everyone's story to be a part of it, not just one time on the show, but sort of, track things as they go through and how people grow and what their experiences are since the last time we talked, since we can actually show milestones where there really is no overnight success, in at least that I've ever seen or experienced. And people put in time and effort, and they pivot, and there's hardships and depression and other things that lead to people to succeed. So I sort of would love to have you back on the show if you'd like to be back on.
Oh, of course. Yeah, you know how to get to me now.
All right, awesome. Well, I thank you, and I want to make sure the audience knows that they can find you at Nash and Proper on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, as well as
we're pretty heavy on Instagram.
Oh yeah, you're following on there. I'm really impressed, actually. I love if anyone hasn't looked, I keep talking, but if anyone's on Instagram, there's a picture of the sandwich, and it shows how it's broken down with every little piece of ingredient that's on there, and the buns and the chicken and the coleslaw. It's oh my gosh, it's amazing. I'll probably end up sharing that at some point on my Instagram as well, and the Justin Food Entrepreneurs Instagram, because that's amazing. I love that the breakdown of it. I think it's incredible. Anyway, so they can reach out to you there, and Deborah and I are definitely going to come try it, and I want to make sure that everyone knows that to come try your food. One of the reasons that I found you guys is because of the social media response. And you were putting out quality content. Obviously, you have great products because the reviews were incredible, and it's not. A lot of times you'll see stuff and there's a good photo, but the reviews and people's comments don't follow, or they don't have the following. And and you guys really do have it. So, that's amazing. So
thank you.
Congrats, and thank you again. And I'm Justin Bizzarro. I'm the host of Justin and the Food Entrepreneurs. And thank you everyone for listening in. If anyone has any questions or comments, they can reach me at justin.bizzarro@gmail.com. That's Bizzarro. And you can also find us on Instagram at Justin and the Food Entrepreneurs. Thank you, everyone, and I look forward to another episode.